And they've talked about how women are supposed to have the best of everything. That women are supposed to be helped out of carriages and lifted over mud puddles. Anybody ever helped me out of a carriage? And ain't I a woman? Nobody's ever helped me over a mud puddle? Threw a blanket on the ground before me? And ain't I a woman? I can do most anything a man can do. I have chopped and carried in the barns and drawn carriages and plowed fields. I can do anything a man can do, sometimes better. And I can eat as much as any man, if I can get it. And ain't I a woman? I bore 13 children and saw most of them sold off into slavery. And when I cried out with a mother's grief, nobody heard me but Jesus. And ain't I a woman? That man over there, he said that he was talking about, intellect. He says that women cannot vote because they don't have the same intellect as men. Well, now I say, if I only have a pint and you have a gallon, why not give me my little pint full? You don't have to worry because I can't take more than my pint will hold. So men, give women their rights. If you got their rights, just give them to them. And don't worry about it. It'll be all right. It says in the Bible that women are the cause of Adam's sin. And they turned the world upside down. Well, what I say is if one woman turned the world upside down all by herself, then all these women together could probably set it right again. You ought to give them a chance. And that there is all old Sojourner has to say. However, one of the things it told me to do when I was researching this speech is to get details and learn a lot about my subject matter. And when I did, first thing I did was Googled the speech. And I found the speech that I remember from that speech that I just did for you. But then I went back. And the next time I Googled it, I put in different information. Instead of putting in Sojourner, Truth, Ain't I a Woman, this time I put in 1851 Seneca Falls Convention, Sojourner, Truth. I got a whole different speech. I got something totally unlike what you just heard. Different cadence, different tone, different words, and not once was "Ain't I a Woman" said. So I started to try to figure out what the discrepancy was, and come to find out that the speech that was originally given in 1851 and recorded by some of the press that were there was a very different speech, and it was rewritten in 1863 by Frances Dana Baker Gage. And it is felt, I mean, nobody actually has any proof, but it's felt that the goal in rewriting the speech was to make it sound like it had been written by an enslaved person from the South. As luck would have it, Sojourner was raised in New York. She was born into slavery. She was owned by Dutch people and spoke only Dutch until she was 9 years old. She didn't have the cadence of a Southern enslaved person. She didn't have the vocabulary of a Southern enslaved person. And my immediate response to that was what our response often is when we find out something from history. Is it true or is it what we thought it was? I decided to get indignant. I got indignant in Sojourner's behalf. Who was this white woman Gage to think that she could do a better speech than the speech that had already been written? This speech that was given in 1851, Sojourner just stood up and started talking. Now, what you have to understand is that this was not a woman that was unused to speaking in public. She escaped from slavery in, hold on a second, I made myself some notes. 1826, she escaped from slavery. Once she escaped from slavery, she became an abolitionist and a minister. And she learned an awful lot about the cause of women as well as the cause of enslaved people. And she absolutely worked really hard to talk about and deliver speeches and convince people. So it wasn't her first time giving a speech in 1851. In 1850, she had given the speech at the convention in Syracuse, New York. So when she'd already heard the arguments against women being, allowed the right to vote. So as a consequence, she was all prepared to defend women's rights. And now I'm going to quickly read to you the speech that she did give. May I say a few words? I want to say a few words about this matter. I am a woman's rights. I have as much muscle as any man, can do as much work as any man. I have plowed and reaped and husked and chopped and mowed, and can any man do more than that? I've heard much about the sexes being equal. I can carry as much as any man, and can eat as much too if I can get it. I'm as strong as any man that is now. As for intellect, all I can say, if a woman have a pint and a man a quart, why can't she have her little pint full? You need not be afraid to give us our rights, for fear we will take too much, for we can't take more than our pint will hold. The poor men seem to be all in confusion and don't know what to do. While children, if you have women's rights, give it to her, and you will feel better. You will have your own rights, and they won't be so much trouble. I can't read, but I can hear, and I've heard the Bible, and I have learned that Eve caused man to sin. Well, if a woman upset the world, do give her a chance to set it right side up again. The lady has spoken about Jesus and how he never spurned women from him. And she was right. So after I thought about this indignancy that I was feeling, what I realized is that when I further researched the rest of Sojourner's life, she was friends with Frances Gage until she died. And if she wasn't offended by Frances rewriting her speech, there was no reason for me to be offended by Frances rewriting her speech. We have to get beyond the history and to the very point of we're all women. And we all need to use our right to vote.